he has decided to leave the ship, you know. That is always just half sailing. It hasn't reached its destination, raises questions. It's not only raising questions about the questions he is raising, it also raises questions about people of his ilk or type or stature who are on the project. And we know that there are very big people who are men of God who currently support this project. And it also saddens me that what happens to the others who are currently hanging on. I know that our good mother is there, and evangelist, pastor, bishop, Dr. Joyce Aye.
Yeah.
And especially living at this time when there's the brouhaha, you know, sometimes you have to stabilize the ship before you leave. But at the bigger perspective, or in the bigger perspective of the narrative, we should be questioning why somebody big like him is leaving a project that government and its communicators and the defenders of this project are saying that is going so well. It leaves me in tatters. Now I'm saddened. You know, he's one of my respected men of God.
I believe across the country, he indeed is one of everyone's respected men of God.
Yeah.
And for me, it is the issues that he raised, the fact that, you know, and I like the fact that he said that the questions that Ghanaians are asking about the cathedral are legitimate. I mean, not too long ago, we had a man of God who said that those of us who were asking questions and criticizing, we must be witches or wizards, which is why we're raising objections to how the National Cathedral project is being managed. But for him, he said that if you continue to pay contractors $40,000 a month, while we wait to procure a huge loan in this hostile atmosphere, he says it sounds dicey to him. And that begs the question, this $40,000, are we still paying as we're sitting down now? Every month, are we paying $40,000? Because as far as we're concerned, even though they're telling us that work is in progress, we know that for a while, work stalled because there were a lot of issues that came with it. We saw the big pit and we filmed it ourselves. We saw that pit. And so if at that time when work had stalled, $40,000 was probably being paid every month, where were we getting the money from? Was it prudent at that time? And we've all said that in this economic crisis, the last thing anybody wants to do is dig into, you know, the coffers and use it for something that we don't think should be put up at this time. When hospitals lack beds, they lack doctors, nurses, a lot of them are home and saying, we have not been paid, we're not being posted, we have issues with teachers. Classrooms don't even have chairs. There are children who are laying on the floor using stones as their tables, their chairs, using these same stones, you know, in the form of computers. All these issues are there. We have not resolved them. But every time you raise objections to how this is being managed, they tell you that you're a Sambalas, you're a Tobias, you are probably a witch or a wizard. Now there's someone from within who has come out to say that, I don't even agree with how you're going about things. If I ask questions, you never answer. Why should he remain on the board? Because his image is at stake at this point.
Yeah.
You know? And great question. What about the others who are still on the Secretariat? What are they waiting for? Are they okay with how things are being run? Or do they side with Ghanaians? And if they do, they should come out and let us know. Because constantly you hear them say, oh, everything is fine. We're still building. But these are people we revere. And they are still on the Secretariat. Yeah. And now questions are being raised about their integrity as well. If I were Bishop Dag Hayward Mills, I probably would have left a long time ago. I mean, he resigned in August, we're told, you know, but the issues are still coming up. And so I'm not surprised he's gone.
Yeah,
but really
it also beggars belief, the issues about the controversy that has dogged this project for a very long time. And I think that when we're reiterating some of this, we have to, again, put it into a better perspective. Because the questions about whether the project was mooted by the president for his own good or for his own pact or covenant with his God should not be just put under the banner.
Yeah.
The president, when he was campaigning prior to 2016 or prior to 2017, did not tell the ordinary voter that as part of my mandate and in the manifesto that I am coming to campaign with the governing New Patriotic Party or then the opposition New Patriotic Party, I will build a national cathedral at this cost. I remember one of the key issues about cost that came up was always a cost about how free SHS was going to cost, for which now we've seen that if we were given the cost, we would have known that, look, we would have better advised the president, this is how you should go about it. So now you win power, you decide to do this, and one of the arguments or the basis for which you start this project was that it was going to be private sector led, the church in Ghana led, and so far, the government of Ghana, that is represented by the president and his government, as well as the other arms of government, including the legislature and the judiciary, have decided to sink into this project close to 400 million, if not in excess, of Ghana cedis. If not the cedi, which from September had been tumbling again the US dollar, that would be a lot of US dollars. So why is it that we decide that we want to continue with a project where private sector funds that will directly come from the church are not coming in to fund the project? And so the government of Ghana is now forced to spend taxpayers' money on the project. This is not the best way to use the taxpayers' money. And there are many projects that have been undertaken by government for which if government had listened to people, stakeholders, and it's not necessarily media, because media, of course, were key stakeholders in all the engagement, that government could have better organized. But to dig a hole in the middle of Accra, not only in the middle of Accra, the middle of residential Accra. And this one, the gentleman, the revered bishop, they say I shouldn't be using revered on the set. And this is, he says, I am a firm believer in the president's vision. I believe that the public can see and is questioning the fact that we have spent almost 6 years since the sword cutting of the project, almost 6 years, $30 million US public fund to excavate. And Bella, listen to this one. To excavate a massive pit in the center of the city. These are quotes from the revered Bishop Dag Hayward Mills. He says that almost 6 years since the sword cutting of this project, as well as over $30 million US of public funds spent, we have decided to excavate a massive pit in the city, in the center of the city. Massive pit, even meteorites and craters created after they fall onto the earth are not as big. And we have to raise the questions because we have now come to a time where it has to be the order of preference and which ones are of a priority to the citizens. Look, one of the best programs that the president has brought in is the free SHS program. Free SHS, it is good, but the way it is being funded,
it's questionable.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. And you see, he also talks about the fact that as much as there was a board of trustees or a secretariat, a lot of the decisions that were made with regards to the National Cathedral were not really made by them. Most of those decisions were made by government. And one of such decisions, he said, was the engagement of Sir David Ajayi, the contractor, the designer of the National Cathedral project. And we all know that there was some huge amount of money that was even paid to him, and that has also generated a lot of questions as well. He says, and I'll just say that, he said in his letter that he was uncomfortable, whereas the trustees existed and were known by the public, almost all decisive moves were made by the government and not by the clergymen. One of such decisions is the engagement of Sir David Ajayi. And I remember that at the time when all these issues came up about how much we had paid him, for designing and redesigning, the project, there were a lot of people, architects in Ghana, who were asking questions that how come we were not engaged to also forward our designs? Who knows? Any of us could have still provided a really beautiful design without having to charge that amount of money that was paid to Sir David Ajayi. Why were we not given the chance? And now we have it from an insider who says, well, the trustees were not even given the chance to decide. That's a major problem.
Bella,
why
it is
constitute
true. There are people who can give us designs for less.
Why
Let's not say one of us could have.
And not allow them to make such important decisions. Then what was the point? Were you just doing that to save face, just so the public thinks that we have people who are being put together, and that should be the reason why we should buy into the idea of putting up a national cathedral? And again, nobody is against putting up a church for God. Nobody. But it's the way and manner in which we are constructing this cathedral. That is where the problem is. And I wish that government would really, really sit down and look into all the issues that have come up and make a decision. It's been years since the General Hospital was pulled down. I remember last year, January, was when I went there because the people in the community were complaining. They said that, in fact, because government was not doing anything about the General Hospital, they had turned it into a football park. And in fact, they were threatening that if nothing was done about it, they would actually turn it into a full-blown football park so that they know that we don't have a hospital in the community. I mean, when we did that story, they came, they fought us, said, well, we're still doing it, we're working on it. Now you cannot even go and film around it because when you go there are people there. They won't allow you. But people are asking questions within the community that you promised us at the time you pulled it down, that in about a year you'll put up the hospital. We still haven't seen it. We're in 2023. When is that going to happen? Agenda 111. How many of these hospitals are near completion? Because the president said, as much as we promised that we're going to complete it within a certain time, I'm sorry we're not able to meet that target, but we hope that by the time my tenure is over, we'll be able to construct these hospitals. At the time he spoke, he said about 80 of them had started construction. What is the update on that? I mean, we don't have all those details, and we think that at a time when a country needs more hospitals, we need constant supply of electricity. Our roads are horrible, to say the least. Even the roads that are tarred, the street lights are constantly off. All these problems are there. And we think that it is better for us to sink this much money into, a national cathedral when Ghanaians are telling you that we're not ready for it. Yes, it may help eventually. But is it what we need right now?
What will help eventually?
Well, the national... No, hold on.
Stop this thing. Stop this thing.
No,
That thing will
Roland,
not help anyone. No.
Hold on. Don't say it won't help.
Every time you see Cookie on her
design.
post, Facebook, Twitter,
We've been talking
Instagram,
about the fact
WhatsApp,
that constantly when people come into the
cathedral.
country, there's nothing they get to see. It's the same
Cookie,
old
is your
thing.
church not a cathedral?
If this is another form of encouraging people to come into the country as a form of tourism, some way, somehow, it is great. It may generate money for us. That's what I'm saying, that eventually it could help us looking at the design. But is that what we need to sink money into right now? I don't think so.
Yes, it is true. It is true. One of us who always has bad roads. For example, I live at Ajekwejo, just close to Asham. I just sent there. And the road that was given on contract from 2018, that will link Ajekwejo, Sun City, it will link Santor to Ashalibotwe. 2018 was on the budget, 2019 was on the budget, 2020, phew! Just got missing. And up to now, my face, no road. Ajekwejo to Ashalibotwe, no road. The road is very bad. When it rains, that one, And it's not that. Just adjacent that, we have the motorway. The motorway that Kwame Nkrumah constructed. That motorway, no government in the history of Ghana after Kwame Nkrumah has been able to replace. When the motorway that is concrete made cracks and they want to replace it, do you know what they replace it with? Bitumen. I don't know what type of engineers that we have in this country. Therefore, concrete, I don't, because we did mixtures in science, basic science. You don't mix water with oil. Then they go and mix bitumen with concrete. And then they think that, and you are on it, and it is a death trap. That motorway that is there, it's a death trap.
10,000 kilometers
It talks about the priority that we have in this country and what needs to be done. What Dag Hayward Mills is talking about, I think that he should have even resigned. The first year after he sat on that project and he saw that things were not going well, it is those at Jubilee House or the presidency who are managing the project, he should have resigned. He has even kept
I'm
long.
even surprised. And I quote, good morning, Cookie, by the way, and I quote, it must be noted that we as trustees did not appoint the world-class architects, nor did we come up with the cathedral project costing $350 million. I believe such cost will be determined by a quantity surveyor, and we've not had any interactions with a quantity surveyor.
Look.
Good morning.
Yes, cathedral lady.
Welcome.
She's always going to some big cathedral. Your church is which one?
Action Chapel.
That's a big cathedral. Action Chapel, big cathedral.
Relax.
It's private.
Yeah, so I'm very upset this morning, but I'll try and take it easy because Bella would always tell me, don't waste your heart and your emotions over these people. So advice well taken. Now, this is what I want to look at. The number of board of trustees for this national cathedral is what I have right now.
How many are there?
13 of them. Now listen,
Yes.
it was a proper collection of what we call or the people who represent Christianity in this country.
What are their names?
So charismatics are there, Catholics are there, Methodist, Presbyterians.
Protestants.
So it's all of us. Yeah. Now, Apostle Professor Opoko Nyina, former chairman of the Church of Pentecost, that's Pentecostal. Archbishop Charles Gabriel Palmer Bako, Metropolitan Catholic Archbishop Cape Coast, is the vice chairman. 3, Most Reverend Bishop Justice Ofei Akrofi, Anglican Bishop Emeritus, he's a member. Right Reverend Professor Emmanuel Mate, former moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana. Most Reverend T.K. Awotre Pratt, presiding bishop of the Methodist Church. Reverend Professor Cephas Omenyo, moderator of the Presbyterian Church. Well, he's also now resigned. Okay. Pastor Mensa Otabil, General Overseer of the International Central Gospel Church.
He resigned a long time ago.
Archbishop
Did he not?
Nicholas Duncan Williams, Presiding Bishop and General Overseer of the Action Chapel International. Reverend Dr. Joyce Aye, Executive Director, Salt and Light Ministries. Bishop Dag Hayward Mills, Presiding Bishop, Lighthouse Group of Churches, who's now resigned. Reverend Eastwood Anaba, Founder and President of Eastwood Anaba Ministries. Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, Founder of Power Chapel Worldwide. And then 13, Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso, General Superintendent, Assemblies of God. Tell me, if any representation of the Christian body in Ghana that we have was omitted from the Board of Trustees. Nobody has been omitted.
Maybe Obinim.
So, there's representation for the charismatics as well. Archbishop
Roland,
Duncan Williams
would you
is
have
there.
agreed if they had put Obinim?
So my
And
question,
then the other one,
so my question this morning,
they are the only people who are absent.
so my question this morning,
Obofo.
emanating
Prophet
from
one.
this letter, this long letter that Dag Hayward Mills wrote to resign
Is that not the man?
from the Board of Trustees.
Please calm down.
The man with the two names. The local name and the international name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it that? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Nobody should come for me this morning. I'm in blue. It's my favorite color. That's why I'm wearing blue.
Easy.
Don't come for me this morning.
With a touch of red.
Thank you very much.
Please.
With my hard-end bought Valentino belt. She understands. Now, was it that? I'm just asking you. I said, don't come for me.
They'll come for you. But
Is
you
it
can't
a
stop them from
strategy?
coming.
Yeah, your friends will come for you.
know
You can
how-
wear blue. Blue and
you know
right
how-
now we'll be wearing blue and red. Blue and red.
People won't let me even talk. You know how Ghanaians are about religion and Christianity and all of that. Was it that they sat down to really orchestrate this and said, listen, this is what we want to do? To get a buy-in from all Ghanaians, let's put the people they have faith in, the people that they revere, the people that if they say, go here, they will go, do this, they will do, bring anointing oil, they will bring $10,000 to church, they will bring. Should we put these people as the Board of Trustees? I'm asking a question, buddy. So is this a ploy, or was this a ploy to get the whole country to follow and to buy into this whole National Cathedral agenda? Because all these people who lead us to Christ, who we are praying, they are helping us to pray, anointing oil here, we have issues, Alpha Hour and all that, and that one too is trending because offering a dozen. Was it a ploy to get all of us to buy into the idea of the National Cathedral? That's my very first question. Now, according to this letter that Dag Hayward Mills has written, almost everything that takes place, these people are exempted. They don't really know exactly what's going on.
They don't make the decisions.
You just mentioned that my church has a cathedral. Action Chapel has a cathedral. Dag Hayward Mills is a son to the Archbishop. So he's privy to how much it takes to construct such a cathedral as Action Chapel. Now, he mentioned,
I mean, he also
that
has Nakazo.
he's always in the...
Yes.
I was coming to that. He has built a cathedral for himself. All these Board of Trustees, exactly, all these members of the Board of Trustees have cathedrals, mini cathedrals themselves, and they have an idea how much it takes to construct something of this magnitude. Now, he said in the letter that they've suggested too many times that they can build this cathedral with a fraction of the 400 million that we are talking about. How did we budget 100? I'm saying we because it's the National Cathedral. The president says we'll build it by all means. How did we start from 100 million US dollars? And then now, at a point, somebody comes to announce something and it jumps to 250, comes to 350 and a final 400 million. To the point where there's no money to fund this cathedral, so we are... you forgot when they said we should send Momo. Do you remember? When a Momo number was put out there for us to contribute towards the building of this national cathedral. Am I supposed to read something? Oh, it's okay. So it's trending on Twitter. If you are on your phones right now, you can actually go on Twitter. Dag Hayward Mills, National Cathedral, and all that is trending. At a point, numbers were put out there that we, ordinary Ghanaians, who are now suffering from bonds that we cannot even get returns on, after we put our money in bonds, the small that we have in our pockets, we should contribute it to the building of the National Cathedral. Whereas, you see the road that you are talking about, the motorway, we all use it. Do you know how many times my tie has burst or my ties have burst on the motorway? Even the Spintex road that we use every day. Do you know how many potholes are on the Spintex road? Bella was talking about accessibility to education. Do you know how many students are still laying on their stomachs to write with chalk on the bare ground or on the bare floor? Do you know how many students haven't seen computers in this country before? Do you know how many students go to school, no shoes, tattered clothes, go to Kolebu? Do you know how many mothers deliver every Monday morning, every Sunday, every Tuesday, every day of the week? And the babies, the infants, would have to sleep on the floor. Do you know how many? And we are listen, Anopa we won home. I said, don't come for me. If you come for me, I'll face you this way. Don't come for me.
Boots for boots.
Do not come for me.
Blue for blue.
In any case, well, let me finish. In any case, what type of cathedral? No, in any case, what type of cathedral do you want to build which will be bigger than the Notre Dame? Which one got bent?
Yeah,
the historical one that got bent. Are you trying to tell me that you are in a better position to build a cathedral better than the ones in Israel, where we call the Holy Land, where we all go to see? Are you telling me? So if
down, you read
Cookies bites.
Dag Hayward Mills has been trending. So you read some of the comments.
Let's pour some hot water for you at this point.
At this point,
Shanti.
All right.
We need hot water.
And you know the painful thing, you expect me to wake up at 4 a.m.
Easy.
to come and sit here and talk about
this matter. Read the tweet.
David Cho.
She's been
trending
with Dag Hayward Mills.
Hot pepper.
Please read.
You haven't even eaten.
Yeah, and I'm get energy.
Green tea no come.
Okay.
From me.
So he's been trending alongside the National Cathedral. Dag Hayward Mills has also been trending. So we went to the trends and Cookie, because I think you're on a roll. Please
read it for us,
read some of it.
Permission to read tweets, madam.
Okay. So there's a gentleman called Prince Tete D, who's responding to Dag Hayward Mills' resignation from the board of trustees. And he was answering or actually retweeting or answering a question that said, why are the notable men of God still there? Now, this is what he says. We were asked not to answer questions about the National Cathedral to the press, and only one person was supposed to speak to the press. If we are trustees who are managing the business of the cathedral, how come we cannot reasonably answer any questions concerning the cathedral? Indeed, it is because we truly do not know much about what is happening that we were told to not answer any questions to the press. And I remember Bella interviewed one man of God.
He won't talk.
He says he won't talk about it. It was this week, no? Yes, and he says he won't talk about it. So I can actually identify with what they're saying. Now, Evangelist Dag Hayward Mills on his resignation from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. But some supposed big men of God are still on the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. And the big question this morning is why? These are revered men of God in this country. I don't know which heavyweight in Christendom is not part of the board of trustees. I don't know any of them.
Let's continue reading.
Please continue. Okay, can I get water? Where's the water?
I asked if you needed hot water because
no, not hot. Like this one, I need cold water.
Okay, Shanti, Wasempa. Tentative rule says that by God, as a Christian, I'm so happy that Evangelist Dag has resigned from the cathedral board. Dag Hayward Mills believes in building more churches, but not when the project has now become like in quotes, sitting in the seat of mockers or walking in the way of sinners. Okay, Romeo Kofi says, by God as a Christian. I think I've read that. Let's jump to the next one. Why won't these two notable men of God with good reputations, as they're known for, resign from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees? There are lots of questions surrounding the building of the cathedral, and there is an alleged scandal. Okay. Nana J says that with the resignation letter going round with Pastor Dag Hayward Mills supposedly, which he supposedly wrote, he said they have to answer to the public, and the questions about the cathedral are legitimate. He had a problem with how things were done. The only one that doesn't have to answer to anyone is God. Okay. What else do we have? Can we? Okay. Dag Hayward Mills must be equally blamed for this mess. He was part of the trustees. That's Jeffrey Francis 1. And
no. Go, there was one there. Go down.
We missed.
What's this one?
That's Alpha R. That's different. So let's just move on. Yeah. I'm not against Alpha R, but I don't understand why my girlfriend. No, we don't need that. Sika Mpedede says anyone who claims to be a true man of God won't sit on that cathedral board. If you are still on that board, you are no different from the corrupt officials stealing from the state. Okay, that's from Sika Mpedede, and that's another tweet from Sika Mpedede. Let's move on, please. It's the same, or it's not. Well, let's move on. Yeah. Where are the Defenders Association job day ground? Okay, can we get another? Engineer Nana Kwekudadzi says it's seasonal, bro. When Duncan Williams began those, does he could gather lots of people to pray at parks. Same with Ajinasari, same with Dag Hayward Mills and the whole. Okay, Sikampe Dede again says even David, a man after God's own heart, wanted to build for him. Yes, God said no. How much more Pharaoh? Hey, who's the Pharaoh here? That's why I'm pained that my COP is neck deep into this project. I'm shocked. As a company, you have lots of tweets coming. If this project was handed to this great man of God, it would have been commissioned by now. But they can still tap into his wisdom. He's a builder. The records are there. Well, the builder says that I am not going to be a part of this team anymore because they are not listening to our opinions. Letter not accepted. The president is out of town. But by their fruits, most unforgiving people are Christians. Okay. Can we try and get this is not related. Men of God, please stay away from political appointments. Since those positions bear a political name, corruption will surely be their hallmark. Looks as if we're reading the tweets from just one person. Is there anybody else apart from Sikam Pididi? We'll try and reload the comments shortly, but we'll take a quick break. Keep watching. This is TV3 New Day. We'll be right back.